We are in Matthew, and we are in the good stuff, getting ready to get to the amazing stuff. Okay? Last week, Jesus was tested in the wilderness. And did he pass? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. How did he pass? He used the Word. He rightly applied the Word of God, and he was able to combat the tester. All right, and then we also had another prophecy that we went through there in Matthew 4:12, and I think we got down through 17, which puts us at 18. And you're gonna feel me going fast this morning because I want to get to Matthew 5. Okay, but we do need to cover these last few verses here. So I'm just going to read. Let me read the next section. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew, and they were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come, follow me," Jesus said, "and I will send you out to fish for people." And at once they left their nets and followed him. And going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. And they were in a boat with their father Zebedee preparing their nets. And Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed them. Just in this passage here, there's some fairly amazing things. You kind of have to know their culture to know them. But I guess first, any questions, any observations about that? Anything you see? So the thing we typically see is we're like, oh man, they're out here fishing and they just left. I mean, like, that's pretty amazing. Can you imagine Adam fishing somewhere and just dropping his pole and leaving? No. Well, these guys, it's their profession. And we're like, man, these guys are casting their nets. Apparently, just drop their nets. The tools that they have for their profession. You're a plumber. Like, this is just dropping all the stuff.
Throwing
it to the side and leaving and walking away. Now, that's the thing we see, which is actually not the amazing thing that's here, because I think I mentioned this before in the how the rabbis and their disciples worked. Like, this is sort of like LeBron James coming to a basketball court over here somewhere and picking out a child and being like, "Follow me, I will show you the ways of basketball. I will teach you to become the greatest." And of course they're going to follow him. So the rabbis they're astronauts. They're whatever. So of course they're going to follow them. What's amazing about this is that he is going to pick them. That's not how it works. The rabbi doesn't come and pick some fishermen to come follow him. If they want a chance to follow him, remember what I said? You got to distinguish yourself as being in the top of the program. And then you're going to follow this rabbi around for months, maybe 6 months, following this rabbi around until finally it is now acceptable for you to, you don't even ask the rabbi. The rabbi has to recognize you. You're waiting on the rabbi to recognize you so that you can ask him if you can follow him. This has been flipped on its head. And I'm going to ask you a question. So he says, "Come follow me, and I will send you out to fish for people." I think that's in the text. It's in the text. It's in the text. There's one place, if you went looking in the Old Testament for, I looked for fish. There's a lot of fish in the Old Testament. If you look for fishermen, not many of those. And you will find the one that goes along with this. Like, it's really clear out of the three which one goes along with this. And if you look at that and you look closely that Jesus says, "I will send you out to fish for people," there's something kind of amazing in that analogy there. I'll leave that one for you to find. Let's move on. And Jesus went, this is verse 23, Jesus went throughout Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness among the people. And news about him spread all over Syria, and people brought to him all who were ill with various diseases, those suffering severe pain, the demon-possessed, those having seizures, and the paralyzed, and he healed them. And large crowds from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and the region across the Jordan followed him. Right. Okay, we got Jesus doing lots of good works. healing people who need healing. And then we have this list of places that people are following him from. And one of them doesn't fit. It's like a list. It's like a list where one of them, it's like apples, oranges, bananas, and coal. Okay? Which one of these doesn't fit? The Decapolis. Deca, polis, 10 cities. These are 10 cities that were founded by the Romans in this area that were not Jewish. Not following Hashem. Okay? Pagan cities. Not Jewish. Now, Jerusalem, is that Jewish? Jerusalem's Jewish. Judea. What Judea basically means Jewish, essentially. Galilee. Yeah, that's where the Pharisees have settled. A region across the Jordan, I'll be honest, I'm not exactly sure. Obviously it's to the east of the Jordan. Not sure what that means. The Decapolis is over there. That's where the Decapolis is. Some of those cities, anyway, are south. When you say east of the Jordan, you're thinking between the Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea, right? Over there. So Galilee to the north, Dead Sea to the south. Jordan River runs in between them. East, across the Jordan, would be on the east side. So to me, you're saying south of the Sea of Galilee. The Decapolis extends from, I think, basically a bit north of the Sea of Galilee all the way down to what you would properly call the other side of the Jordan. So anyway, large crowds from Galilee? Yes. Jerusalem? Yes. Judea? Yes. The Decapolis? How are they coming over there? All right, let's leave that one out there. Partly because we got to get to Matthew 5. Now, when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and he sat down, because teachers in this time, they sit down to teach. I'm standing, y'all are sitting. If we were back then, it'd be reversed. Y'all would all be standing and I would be sitting. His disciples came to him and he began to teach. Now, here's the thing. Jesus changed the world. Right? Y'all agree with me on that? He changed the world. Everyone recognizes that Jesus changed the world. You're sitting here today. Right now, millions of people all across this country, maybe it's exact time, all across the world, it's different time zones. People are going to church today. The culture has changed. People have changed. The world, governments have changed. The world has changed because of Jesus. And you could argue that's because he rose from the dead. I would say the bigger part of it is his teaching. And what Matthew is about to give us here, I don't think it's word for word one sermon that Jesus gave. I think it's a summary of what Jesus went about teaching and why these crowds were following him. This is the kind of thing that Jesus was teaching. These are the words that changed the world. The words that turned the world upside down. This is those words. Starts with the Beatitudes, 9 Beatitudes. We're going to cover them in sets of 3. You'll see why as we go along. He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." I don't know about you, but for 46 years, I don't know, they didn't seem world-changing to me. And not even really sure what he's getting at here. So let's take it apart. Let's start with this word blessed. What does that mean to you all? Blessed. Anybody, when you hear that, what do you think?
Someone who receives a blessing. A lot of times we think about that and
So someone who receives a blessing. Yeah, that's probably okay. I'm getting some nods, and that's kind of now the word blessing has some range to it. Now, how many of you think of yourselves as Southern? Anybody? Right? No hand? No hands? So a few hands. Ron, you can't raise your hand. You root for Baltimore. When you root for Baltimore, we take your Southern card, okay? All right. If you ask me what I want for breakfast, it's biscuits and gravy. Biscuits and gravy, okay? But now I learned a few years ago that I might not be as Southern as I think, because I learned about the phrase, bless your heart. And the range of the phrase, bless your heart. Now there is, oh, bless your heart. Thank you. And then there's, well, bless your heart. Okay? And many more. This phrase has got range. I didn't know about it till a few years ago. And I got to make a confession here. A few years ago, my wife and I went to Rhode Island, and I had Eggs Benedict, and I loved it. Okay? So my Southern card not looking very strong either, Ron. Not looking very strong either. But that word's got range. Now, the thing about blessing is you could be blessed, and a lot of people will say that, I'm blessed, and an inherent thing about you. Or you can bless someone else. I can bless you, Johns, right? This word the word that's used has a particular meaning. It doesn't have the range of this. And it would be probably better translated, not because there's anything wrong with blessing, but it would be better translated as happy or fortunate, because it doesn't mean the thing of a blessing going on to them. It's an inherent thing. It's like I'm blessed. How are you feeling today? I'm feeling blessed. I'm blessed. I'm happy. I'm fortunate today. That's what he means. All right. And we're gonna start with the middle one here. Okay? Because it's the easiest to get, I think. Blessed, how happy, how fortunate are those who mourn. You ever thought that? You ever went to a funeral? Been like, how fortunate they are. How happy they are. Not once in my life. Have I ever done that? Not once. For they will be comforted. Okay? So they're not happy because of the inherent thing. They're not happy because of the mourning. And that's why you've never thought that before, right? Because that's not why they're fortunate because they're mourning. They're fortunate because of what comes from the mourning. Those who mourn will be comforted. Yes.
Begs the question on all of these because of the passive nature of the second half of them. They will be comforted by whom?
They will be comforted by whom? And how?
God?
How?
Is this connected with God will be pleased with you if you have this? Or I know you could expand it to other things. They could be comforted by family and friends.
It could be.
But some of these seems like God is the one who could.
So let's.
Second half of some of these.
Right. So, is it in the text? Yes. Now, these, I want to save a little bit of this. These are like different how they're in the text. But is, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Is that in the text? And what comes to mind? Where's it in the text? And it's not in the text in the same way that, like, what do we mean when we say in the text? Well, it's a reference to something, and a lot of times...
About remezes to this point to where it goes back to a certain
Right.
prophecy that we've looked through here in the first little bit.
We knew those were going back because they were direct quotes, or they were quotes that were changed, but they were close enough that you knew where it was. Sometimes it's a specific number, specific sequences of number. There are different ways it takes us back to a place, a specific place. I don't think this one goes back to a specific place. But there are many places. And one of them ought to come to mind because it was just a couple chapters over. Who did we have just a couple chapters over who was weeping and refused to be comforted? Rachel? Rachel was weeping and refused to be comforted. But if you go back to the reference, she was comforted by God. I don't know. It says, hold back your tears, for your work's going to be rewarded. They will return. She gets what she's mourning for. You know, Isaac is comforted. You remember that? Why is Isaac mourning? Because his mother has died. And how is he comforted? When the servant brings back Rebekah, he is comforted. So here's a case where he's comforted by someone else. Rachel, the one we probably ought to think about because it was just brought up, was comforted by God. How fortunate are those who mourn because they will be comforted. You see what Jesus is doing here? First thing, he says this outrageous thing. This thing that you're like, what? What do you mean? How fortunate, how happy. That's like the opposite. Mourning is like the opposite of happy. Only it's not. It's not the opposite of happy, but it's very different from happy. How happy are those who mourn because they will be comforted. Maybe we're starting to see it. How fortunate, how happy are the poor in spirit. I mean, here's part of why we're having problems here. What does poor in spirit mean? What is poor in spirit? John, you and I heard a sermon by Bud Gentry. I don't know if you remember it. And it was on the Beatitudes. And he paralleled the Beatitudes with the plan of salvation. And our minds were blown when we heard this. And when he said that poor in spirit was like, well, what do you have to do to be saved? Well, the first thing is you've got to set aside yourself. And you've got to decide to follow God. That's the core of what salvation is. That's not what Jesus means here. It's not what he means. Poor in spirit. Poor is the word poor. You don't have money. You are impoverished. You don't have it. You don't have spirit. You don't have ruah. You don't have pneuma. What does that mean? What does that word mean to them? Ruah, in terms of people, means your life force.
No breath.
Your breath. Yes, you don't have breath. You can't go. You don't have gumption. How happy, how fortunate are those that that are impoverished of life. Because theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Yes.
Say frequently people connected with the Old Testament passages that talk about God being pleased with those who are humble and contrite in spirit.
Contrite in spirit. The thing is, that's not what this means.
That's the question.
And here's the thing. We have changed it. This statement is so radical. It's so out there, we can't stand it. And we've changed it. If you just look at what the words means, it means who don't have life, who don't have breath, who don't have get up and go. And you're like, what? How? What did I just read? And Jesus went throughout Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness among the people. News about him spread all over Syria, and people brought to him all who were ill with various diseases, those suffering severe pain, the demon-possessed, those having seizures, the paralyzed, and he healed them. Who are we talking about? Those that are poor in spirit, those that are impoverished of breath and life. I said we had this reference to Rachel in her tears before. Jeremiah 31 is where one of those passages comes from, and it talks about the people coming back to the land. And who is coming with them? If you go back and read in Jeremiah, the lame and the blind, those that are impoverished of spirit. How happy are those who are lacking in breath and life, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Is it in the text? Yes. Yes. We just saw it. Just a couple verses ago it was in the text. It's in Jeremiah. It's not in the text in the same way. Not in the text in the same way. I tell you what I think of when I think of this. If you were here last Sunday, I preached on one of my favorite chapters in the Old Testament. And it starts with a man who is impoverished of spirit. Abraham is sitting under a tree, resting during the day, because he has just had surgery and he's old and he's about to die. He is impoverished of spirit.
And he also has no,
His
his
promise
promise
hasn't
hasn't been
been
fulfilled.
fulfilled. And he's about to die. And he has no hope of achieving this, but the kingdom of heaven is coming. It's his. He's going to possess it, even though he's impoverished of spirit. The kingdom of heaven is his. See how incredible this is? The last one. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. How fortunate, how happy are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Who owns the earth at this time?
Those who are not meek.
The opposite of meek. The Romans own the earth. And how do they own it? What through power? And what exactly, like, what do we think of with the Romans? Like, how exactly have they conquered? I mean, I'm getting like, historical, military on you, but the Roman legion. When you think of how the Romans did it, it's through discipline. Because they recruited soldiers who walked 30 miles a day in sandals carrying 50-pound packs on their back. And when they got to where they were going, they built a fort before they could go to bed. And if they stepped out of line, the other soldiers beat them to death. That's how they maintained discipline. That's how they kept their army in order and how they conquered the world, through the opposite of meekness. Through the opposite of meekness. I said, Ron, that Christianity has taken that first one and they've changed it because I think because it doesn't make sense. Because you read that and you're like, what do you mean? That doesn't make any sense that the impoverished of spirit are going to inherit the kingdom. I can't make it line up with salvation. I can't, but it's in the text. We take this word meek. What have you heard about this word, meek? You've heard sermons on this, I'm sure.
Meek is not weak. You get that.
Meek is not weak. It doesn't mean weak. He's not saying that the weak will inherit. He couldn't possibly be saying that. Jesus couldn't possibly be saying that. That's exactly what he's saying. It's exactly what he's saying. Meek. And so I did a little research on this. I was trying to find the history of the word. And you will find a lot of stuff on the internet. People saying that, well, where this word came from is that the Greeks, it's Greek language, it's their word, is that they would go into the hills and they would collect horses because they needed horses for their army, but they're wild. And they got to bring them down and you got to tame them. And after they tamed them, they would sort them into categories. And you would have like the ones that were like doing okay, and you might send them to go farming or something. And you might have a middle category that you do something else with. But the best, the ones that are the meek, the ones that are the most tame, those become war horses. And Jesus is saying the war horses that can control their strength, they will inherit the earth. And the problem is, there's no evidence at all that's where the word came from. In fact, you can go back and find some of the Greeks that are talking about horses, and they say that when you are dealing with a horse, you need to be meek. Anybody ever dealt with horses at all here? Anybody? We don't have any. They don't like them. They bite. But you probably know a little bit about horses. If you approach a horse, what do you need to do? You need to be calm. You need to be gentle because you don't want to get that horse excited because that horse is way bigger than you and way stronger and way faster. You need to exude calm so that you can make that horse calm, so that you can ride it. When you approach that horse, you need to be meek. Meek means meek. It doesn't mean strength. Now, you could be strong and be meek. You can. That would fit. The word would fit there, but it's not what it means. It's not what it means. In a world where the opposite of meek owns the world because they are the opposite of meek, Jesus comes and he sits down and he says, the meek will inherit the earth. Is it in the text? Yes. What comes to mind for you?
Psalm 37:11 says that.
Okay, so this one is going to be a direct quote.
Shall inherit the land is the way it's
Yeah, meek shall inherit the land.
Hebrew, you know.
Yeah, so you could go there.
So whether Jesus is connecting with that or not, obviously we don't know. But
Well, I think because it's a direct quote, and I think this one is like a direct quote. I think absolutely.
right.
So, but I'm going to make this argument about these. It's not in the text so much as it is the text.
Summarizes the text.
I don't want to say summarizes. It is the text in a way. People are going to say about Jesus, they're going to flock to him and they're going to be like, he doesn't teach like other people. He doesn't teach like other people. Let me tell you what, yeah, go ahead.
Another comment. As usual, Jesus, well, I'll say always, Jesus practiced what he preached.
Mm-hmm.
Because later he's going to say, I am meek.
Yeah,
I am gentle.
yes, I am gentle and my yoke is gentle.
Right.
Yeah. Let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, there were two brothers that were in a field. And one of them was jealous of the other one. He was jealous because God had accepted his brother's sacrifice. But his sacrifice, which he had brought from the land, God was not pleased with. And he was jealous of his brother. And so he killed him. And what happened to him because he killed his brother? He was exiled. Exiled from what? Exiled from where?
He was from his people, but it seemed like he was sent throughout the land, or maybe it was just he was exiled from comfort, or
You're kind of getting it. What specifically happened to him? What did God say to
he
him?
had to wander.
He had to wander because why? Because the earth will no longer yield its fruit to you. He was disinherited from the earth. He was literally disinherited. The earth will no longer give you what the earth gives. And because of that, you're going to have to wander. And you fast forward, I don't know, like 1,000-something years later, there are two brothers that are in a field arguing. Their herdsmen are arguing over water, over wells, over the land for their herds to eat. And one of them looks at his brother and he says, this isn't working. Like, I wanted you to be my heir. I wanted you to be my son that would take over, to be my Behor, who would take over my house. But I can see this isn't working, and this quarreling is not good. You choose what you want. If you go right, I'll go left. You go north, I go south. You stay here, I'm going there. You go there, I'm staying here. Whatever you want, you take it. And what did God say to that man afterwards?
Blessed. You will be blessed.
What did God say to him? Well, I mean, in a way, he says that, but that's not specifically. I didn't look up this verse before. I should have, but we can find it. 13, Genesis 13. Abraham and Lot separate. Verse 16. Read Genesis 13, starting in 16, Johns.
I will make your offspring like the dust So that
Thir-
if anyone can count the dust, then you're
Well, start in the, 14. I couldn't see the number. I'm sorry. That was my fault.
The Lord said to Abram, after Lot departed from him, lift up your eyes from where you are, and look north, south, east, and west. All the land that you see I will give you and your offspring forever.
Okay. What happened to Abraham after he does this?
He started moving.
What did God give him? The land. God gave him right after. He just said, you take whatever land. He told Lot, whatever land you want, you take it. And I will go elsewhere. And God immediately takes him. And he says, you look at it all. Look around from the north to the south to the east to the west. Look at all of it. It's yours. The meek just inherited the earth. It's exactly what happened. It's not in the text. It is the text. Jesus comes along and he says this thing which is like, it is so bizarre, so out there that we cannot tolerate it. We've got to change it. Because it doesn't make sense, Jesus, what you're saying. I don't get it. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. But Jesus said it's true. Jesus says this is our story. This is who God is. This is what he does. If you read the Bible, this is what it is. And the people that listened to that and understood it, they changed the world. The message will still change the world. In a world where it doesn't look anything like the meek are going to inherit the earth. You look at what's going on. Still to this day. It looks exactly the opposite, like the meek are inheriting the earth. The meek will inherit the earth.
Psalm 37 is resonating with me.
Okay.
What you're saying. David, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Beginning with verse 7. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. Refrain from anger and turn from wrath. Do not fret. It leads only to evil. For those who are evil will be destroyed, but those who hope in the Lord will inherit the land. A little while and the wicked will be no more. Though you look for them, they will not be found. But the meek will inherit the land and enjoy peace and prosperity.
And he says this to the warrior. To the warrior who's not going to build the temple because he's a warrior. Because he has blood on his hands. This is God trying to tell him, hey, no, that's not the way. That's not it. It's the Israelites are coming out of Egypt. The army is pursuing them. What does God tell them? You ain't got to do a thing. Just stand there. Just stand there. I will fight for you. The meek will inherit the earth. That's the way it works in the kingdom. It's the craziest, most bizarre, most upside down, most nonsensical thing. And it's true. It's more true than anything. And it will change the world.